Okay, hello. I'm not an AI and I'm going to be reading some scary Reddit stories whilst you watch me play Terraria in the back. Now this one is quite long because the last time I did the arsehole ones, but this one is a big long scary story from r/no sleep. Okay. There is a mining town in the Rockies that was scrubbed from every map. My family is the only one left who remembers why. You may have heard of the recent disappearances in the mountains of Idaho. Groups of hikers gone missing without a trace or sign of struggle. Children vanished in the woods, families left behind. These might seem like disparate events, but I assure you they are not. The account that follows is that of my great-great-grandmother, and was passed to me in a letter on my 16th birthday, as is tradition in our family. For reasons that will soon be made clear, it is the only first-hand account of what happened in the town of Bluebell during the frigid winter of 1821. I remember my mother handing it to me in solemn recognition that I was now old enough to bear the burden of the story, and that I would be forever changed by it. I was told not to share this letter with anyone outside my family, and I have obeyed that instruction my entire life. I am disobeying it now, with urgency, because I fear that the events of long ago are soon to repeat themselves, and when they do, the world will never be the same. Bluebell is waking up. Mary Carlson of Portland, Oregon, July 12th, 2026. Okay, I think this is the letter now. I was a young woman back then, searching for an escape from the fortified world my parents had constructed around me in the east. So I ran. I took the train west as far as it would go, which at the time was still 1,000 miles shy of the Rocky Mountains. I arrived at the end of the line on the 2nd of April. That night, sitting alone in a saloon with no windows, I first heard about the place that would become Bluebell. I had just ordered my first drink when Mr. Grayson introduced himself and offered to pay. I politely declined, but he insisted, assuring me with slurred speech that money was but a frivolous toy to him now. He told me he was a rich man, and that he had a mountain named after him. Intrigued, I agreed to sit with him and listen to his story. Mr. Edmund Grayson had been on his own prospecting in the mountain west for 2 years when he began to think seriously about how to leave his mark on a landscape that struck him as much too wild. He chose a mountain quite ordinary and decided he'd be the first to summit it. He did so, and declared it Mount Grayson. He took pride in knowing he might have been the first white man to witness this view. However, upon his descent into the northern basin, his aspirations of novelty were smothered. He stumbled upon an abandoned mining town. The town seemed fully functional, fit with all the luxuries of a steady operation of the era. Stranger still, it was freshly stocked with whiskey and bread and meat that had yet to spoil. Mr. Grayson noted that whichever outfit operated this town had been careless to leave their rations. He also noted the large population of sparrows that inhabited the place. There were nests on every structure, and the otherwise well-maintained streets were caked in their droppings. The only absent element of the town seemed to be the people to run it. Perhaps the birds scared them off. After an afternoon of indulging in the untouched food and drink, Mr. Grayson stumbled into the mine. What he discovered inside stopped him cold, for there was a fortune's worth of gold staring back at him. The mine's previous operators had chiselled around the deposits, leaving them exposed and intact, and there was something else, strange geometric designs painstakingly carved into the gold itself. Mr. Grayson had seen native artwork. This was much different. How could someone be so stupid as to not harvest riches such as these? At this moment in the conversation, I interrupted Mr. Grayson. Geometrical designs? What are they? Wait, what were they? Did he know of their origin? He brushed off my questions, sipped his whiskey and said, as I said, stupid people, lucky me. He did not care to find out what happened to the camp's previous inhabitants, nor did he record the engravings for future study. Mr. Grayson had found gold. He spent that summer harvesting as much as he could. He left for the east in the fall with as much ore as the man could carry, and slowly made his way to the nearest train station. In the year since returning east as a rich man, he bought property and quite a few poker chips. The latter turned out to be a poor investment, so now he's on his way back for more. I suspected I wasn't the first he'd drunkenly told about this promising place, so it seemed no great presumption when, peering over the stack of glasses between us, I asked if I could accompany Mr. Grayson on his adventure west. It took us the better part of 4 days to cover the final 11 miles. As the crow flies, the basin sat no farther than from the nearest trail. Yet the mountain guarded its approaches jealously, and even the most determined traveller was fortunate to reach its outskirts without injury. When at last we came down into the basin, I knew the place at once from Grayson's telling that first night in the saloon. The town lay hemmed between a sheer rock face and a mountain lake. Its largest street ran straight from the water to the mouth of the mine, lined on both sides with dwellings and shops thrown up in the haphazard way of a town that had been erected without prior vision. Apparently, Mr. Grayson's stories had run ahead of us, for dozens of tents crowded the outskirts, and men mingled in the streets, trading goods and swapping news of their stories. A cheer went up as we approached, for Grayson was this town's leader in all but title, and the men thanked him for making good on his promises. We named the town Bluebell the morning after we arrived, taken from the nickname his mother had used for him as a child. Within days of our arrival, mining began in earnest. The mountain seemed to offer infinite riches. We chiselled and demolished and blasted into its flank. The gold gave itself up so freely that the reports we sent east had to be dulled down to be believed. Scores of hopeful souls arrived by the month, and with them came more sparrows raising their nests on every fresh-built cabin and saloon and haberdashery. Mr. Grayson greeted each new resident with an open hand and warm smile, for it costs a man nothing to be generous with a fortune he believes has no bottom. Years passed like this. The basin's lake swelled each summer with snowmelt, and met our every need. Even as our numbers doubled and tripled, it never ran dry before the first snowfall. Some of us remarked how the water dried up only just after the flurries came, year upon year, as if on cue, and we would set to melting snow on our stoves for what we needed. To all of us, Bluebell was Eden, and Eden kept its promises. The mine produced, the lake provided, and the sparrows chirped peacefully in the rafters. Steady and true, that was the story, until the day the saloon burned. In late September of 1820, we woke up to a gruesome sight. A sparrow lay dead in the street, its fragile body still twitching in the mud. Then another fell from the sky, and another. More and more of them came swooping down from their nests and struck the ground head first, as if they had mistaken the ground for the sky. One after another they died on impact. We tried to catch the birds before they could leap from the eaves, but scores of them kept raining down. By mid-afternoon, thousands of sparrows lay in the street. The town's pastor stood trembling among the little corpses, muttering words like plague and fuck, and people flooded out of the church and into the saloon in search of drink. Mr. Grayson tried to calm the crowd, but when the pastor went mad, so did his flock. Late that night, in the crush of the drunk and disturbed, the pastor stumbled against the table and knocked a lantern loose. It shattered, and the satin curtains by the window caught alight. The saloon burned to ashes before dawn, and the town had another reason to mourn. Those most shaken by the strangeness of that day talked of leaving. Birds did not behave that way in a godly town, they said, so this one must be cursed. A few began to pack their share of the ore, but as luck would have it, a new deposit was discovered that day, deep in the mine. which by then ran nearly half a mile into the mountain's depths. Those planning to leave decided to stay, falling, beguiled, back into the generous arms of Mount Grayson. Everyone chose to forget the sparrows. We were rich, but what else was there to matter? The sparrows did not return. Their empty nests rotted and crumbled over the following month, until the last of them were trampled into the mud. The memory of the birds faded as the nights grew colder. That year the lake dried far sooner than any of us expected. Months before the snow flew, only the summit held snow enough to melt, and so the town sent parties up the mountain nearly every day to gather it. Rationing was ordered. We prayed for snow, for water, for anything, and mined ever deeper into the scorching heart of the mountain. The snow finally came on Christmas Day, and it did not stop. 12 feet fell on Bluebell. The new saloon, only just rebuilt, caved in beneath the weight of it, and before long the drifts closed the passes and shut us in. Walkways were dug on every street, and people made do. No winter in Bluebell was easy, but this one nearly ground life to a halt. The town fractured into families fending for themselves. A few men froze. Food grew scarce, and something in the rest of us began to break. But not in Mr. Grayson. He seemed more alive than ever. Mr. Grayson began sleeping in the mine that winter, subsisting on the hot, dense air deep underground and the rats that spawned in the dark. What gold he pried loose he pored over with ravenous eyes. His body turned weary and skeletal, pale in the lantern light, and his words twisted into half-thought mutterings of fortunes his heirs would never spend. We all kept clear of him. By February, our food stores had thinned to nothing, and the snow showed no sign of breaking. The town chose to send a small party out on foot to reach the nearest settlement and beg for aid. Grayson would not go. He would not leave his gold, not for snow, not for hunger, not for me. But I went. 6 of us set out into the white. Only 3 of us reached the far side of the mountain, and I will not put to paper what became of the others. I will say that those of us who lived came through too broken to turn back, and could only wait out the thaw behind us. Bluebell fell silent. No word came out of the basin for the rest of that winter. In the first week of May, the passes cleared enough to travel, and I went back with a group of men who carried the resupply. Within hours of reaching the town, we sent a man down the mountain to report the disappearance of more than 300 souls. What we found was the very sight Grayson had described to me 5 years before. The town was frozen in place. A pot of coffee sat cold on the wood stove. A child's doll lay half sewn on a bedroll, the needle and thread resting where they had been set down. Pickaxes and drills lay scattered across the floor of the mine, and of course there was the gold. Exposed ore riddled the newest excavations. None had been drawn out in months, and every fresh deposit lay untouched, but for intricate identical etchings covering each one. Etchings we would come to discover that almost perfectly mirrored the layout of the tunnels of the mine that we had spent years digging, almost because the map showed one thing our mine did not: a great cavern, just beyond the end of our deepest tunnel. I ventured there by lamplight. At the tunnel's end I found a black powder fuse, half burned, its charge still primed, nestled in a drill hole bored clean through the rock. I worked the charge free, and cold air rushed through the opening behind it, and snuffed my lantern, leaving me in the dark. The whistle of it settled, and it was silent, and then a voice came through the wall, like a mother whispering to her child, "Come closer, come closer." I bent and pressed my eyes to the hole. On the other side, an eye stared back. It was brown like mine, and blinked when I blinked, squinted when I squinted. Closer still, closer still. Suddenly, a great dread came over me, and I backed away, sensing in my core that the voice was not to be trusted. It was then, at the edge of the fallen lantern's last light, that I saw them. A single set of footprints pressed into the dirt of the tunnel floor, leading away from the wall. They seemed to emerge from the wall as if the stone was smoke, and one could pass through it without hindrance. I lit the lantern once more, and followed the footprints. Whoever made them was barefoot, 10 toes in every print. They started close together like the shuffle of someone unsteady on their feet, but as I neared the mouth of the mine, the gaps between them grew, until whoever it was had broken into a run, and as I stepped out into the open, the strides stretched longer than a running man could reach. 10 feet between them, then 15. Still they ran on, out across the melting snow towards the dry lake bed. I followed them to the centre of the lake, where they stopped at the base of a charred post driven into the snow. Atop it sat a sparrow's nest. In the nest, a single egg ready to hatch. The story was smothered the moment we carried it down the mountain. Whether out of denial or terror, nothing was done. No investigation, no inquiry. Nothing entered into any record. Those of us who knew the truth were warned, plainly, to keep it behind our teeth. God forgive me, I did. What happened at Bluebell passed only in a slow trickle, from one frightened witness to the next, and the town itself was struck from every map. I held my tongue from the rest of my life, as I was told to. This is the one cowardice I have never been able to undo. I give the story to you now, and with it the hope that you will have the courage that I never found, the courage to seek answers. Esther Belknap, San Francisco, California, Christmas Day, 1868. And that's the end.